This video is for entertainment purposes only. As of January 16, 2015, it is my personal opinion and is subject to change. It cannot and should not be taken as an official or unofficial stance of either myself or any other organization or individual. I am not officially or unofficially representing any individual or organization. Consult with a professional before making any change to any kind of infrastructure. I do not accept any responsibility for any system or infrastructure or any other entity that may or may not be damaged at any time for any reason. Hi. Firstly, please make note of that disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only and is my own personal opinion. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up a Drupal website on AWS, and we're going to be doing it in the way in which I feel is the right way to go about doing it. In this video, I'm going to run through with you exactly how everything's going to work. So let's pop over to the whiteboard and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. So I've drawn a little bit here for you just to speed things up a bit. But what we have here are a VPC, there we go, VPC, okay, and we have a private subnet and a public subnet, okay. The main difference between the two is that the internet can access the public subnet, but it cannot access the private subnet. All right, and that's very, very important because things that are in the private subnet you don't want the internet to access. However, you can configure resources in the private subnet to be able to access the internet. Okay, so from our perspective in this video, that's the main difference between the two. Then in the private subnet, we're going to have an RDS instance. Okay, that stands for Relational Database Service. Okay, and that is a managed database. You don't get access to the underlying instance, which is essentially a server, but you do get access to the database itself. Then we're going to have S3, which is essentially a cloud storage. Okay, and we're going to put that behind something called CloudFront. So what happens there is when you're storing something in S3 and you want to speed up the rate at which the data can get to your users, you put it in CloudFront, and that stores it in edge locations all around the world, and it gets closer to your user base. Then we're going to set up, we're also going to have Route 53, all right, and that is simply a DNS management service. Then in the public subnet, we're going to do a lot of things here. In the public subnet, we're going to have two instances, okay, and attached to each instance, we're going to have a little EBS volume, okay, and a little elastic IP address. The reason why it's called elastic IP is because you can actually pick it up and move it to various resources. Alright, so why are we having two? Well, this instance, this is going to be a demonstration only. Alright, now we're going to be running Drupal, okay, and Drupal, like many other websites out there, wants a database. Alright, now in this instance the database is going to be stored locally, and in this instance the database is going to be reaching across to RDS. Both of these instances will pull any images and static content from Route 53, and then we're going to tie both these elastic IP addresses into Route 53. Okay. Alright, so why have we set up this one here? Why do we have a database locally? Well, if you're running any kind of service that's going to get any kind of traffic, you need to separate both your database and your instance out. It's more secure, and it also means that the load on the instance itself is lower. However, if you're only running a personal website that's kind of like your own window to the world and it's only going to be getting a few hits a day, something like this is perfectly fine. It has the same level of complexity, but it is ultimately cheaper to run because you're only paying for one resource. All right. Once we've set these two up, okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create something called an AMI. Okay, and that AMI is going to have attached to it a snapshot. Alright, now an AMI is essentially stands for Amazon Machine Image, right? And it's essentially a backup of an instance. And the instance we're going to be backing up is this one. And a snapshot is a backup of an EBS volume, so that's going to be backing up this one. We are not going to bother about creating an AMI for this one, purely because at this point, whether you are doing this instance or that instance, they're both the same, but also because this is I'm setting this up just to show you how it can be done. Alright, once we've done these things, once we've set up the Amazon Machine Image of this instance, we're going to go ahead and destroy these instances. Alright, don't worry, there's method in the madness. Then we're going to set up an elastic load balancer. I'll explain that shortly. And we're going to attach to the elastic load balancer an autoscaler. Now an autoscaler scales a fleet up or down depending on its configuration. And we're going to say that when networking or CPU usage gets beyond a certain point to increment the number of instances in the load balancer. Alright, and the AMI that we're going to tell it to pull from is the one we just created. That one. Okay, so it's going to be pulling from this little thing here. And we're going to give it a minimum value of 2. That means that within this ELB we have to have at least two instances at any given time. So it's automatically going to spin up 2 instances straight off the bat from there. And these instances, alright, will immediately be pulling information from S3, from the static content, because we've already set it up to do so. Right? And then finally, we're going to tie in ELB into Route 53. Alright? And what that will mean is that we'll simply be able to go to our website, fire up a browser, go to our website, and it will automatically take us straight through to the ELB. And these instances will be pulling their information from the database, from the RDS database. Okay, so we're going to do that over the next couple of videos, and I'm going to try and keep the videos as short as possible and focus on one specific subject. Alright, and if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll do what I can to answer. So let's get started. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we can all learn something.